it is a war between two countries, but people and citizens suffer it all. It has been almost 180 days since the 24th of February. Still, the invasion of Ukraine is continuing. There are ongoing attacks, strikes, shelling, bombing, and explosion from Russia. Shortly, we probably could not see an end. We're today delighted to have Nina. She's an Ukrainian and had fled her country since the war began. She's now staying in Poland, and she keeps organizing protests and assemblies to support and raise awareness about her country. Hello, Nina.
Hello.
We understand you were from Dnipro. Could you describe how it was before the Russian invasion?
It's quite a big city, an industrial one. It was lovely there, peaceful, quiet.
So what about the people in Dnipro? Are they happy before the invasion?
Yes, I can say that Dnipro was quite a comfortable city to live in. I would even use the word wealthy. So people were well off there. We had a nice standard of living. It was comfortable. It was really pleasant.
What about the current place over there? I mean, is it ruined, or what about the environment over there now?
Thankfully, there were only a few bombardments during those almost 6 months. There was, of course, some buildings were hit. There were a few destructions, but thankfully, my city is one of the luckiest ones, almost untouched by the war. But of course, our airport, that's just a few kilometers from the city, was bombarded in the first night. And I think half of the city at least woke up from that sound. So it hit us on the first day.
The war has begun from the 24th of February. Could you tell us, when did you leave your hometown?
I'm sorry, I will correct you there, because war actually started 8 years ago. Full-scale invasion started on the 24th. I left my home on 7th of March and across the border of Poland on the other day. It is my first year of studies, so I came to Poland initially in October last year. I was home because it was the holidays and I wanted to spend the whole month in Ukraine with my family, celebrate my 18th birthday.
The journey that you fled to your country, how was it? Is it dangerous?
I remember when we were going from Dnipro, getting to Lviv, firstly, to take another train or a bus or to cross the border in any other way. I remember an airplane flying by once. Quite an unpleasant feeling, to say at least. I was lucky, nothing happened. That's a horrible feeling. That's hearing those sounds of bombardment, not knowing whether you will survive and what do you do next. Right now, it's also dangerous to go because Russians, seeing that they lose in position, for example, near the Kherson, may want revenge. And they probably will be bombarding soon the railway stations, the railways, because the weapons hopefully will be coming from the West. So, and for Russians, we know it doesn't matter if it will be a civilian train or anything else. They do not care about such things. So even the road itself, yes, it is a huge danger, a risk.
So had you ever thought one day Russia would invade Ukraine one day?
No, never. I mean, in 2014, I was still a child, but even for me, it was so strange, so unacceptable, so unthinkable, because we've been saying there was a narrative for years before I was even born and my whole childhood that two nations are like brothers and impossible that one would attack another. It was hard to believe in 2014. And I couldn't believe that the war would start this year for different reasons. Simply because we didn't think that Putin would make another step 8 years after. To be honest, we got used to the fact that there was war in the east and part of our country is still occupied. But it had been more or less peaceful for so many years. We never imagined the whole country would be affected.
So as you said, Ukraine and Russia were like a brotherhood. But now Russia reiterated that Russian and Ukrainian are from the same origin. So now, how do you treat Russia or Russian at this stage after this February? Will you hate them, or what do you think?
I'm against breeding hatred in your heart. And I just actually think that they've been so brainwashed by propaganda that we can only pity them. They are filled with hatred, and I do not want to be like them. So I choose to just accept the fact that, well, they're stupid in that way because of their government's doings. I do feel anger. I do feel horror at what Russian soldiers are doing to my people. But I see no use in hating Russians or Russian culture especially. I just hope they would leave us alone. And I definitely do not believe we are of the same origin, because I did study history and I do know that we are different, completely different in our culture, in our language, in our history again, and in our mentality. We would never accept a government like they have now in Russia. Ukrainians always say that if they dislike something, they rise up for freedom. And that's one thing that I think is vital to understand. That's why we are so different. I have Russians in my group in the university. It really depends on what their point of view is. Most of them now are afraid to tell if they actually support Russia. I have no problem with people who are against the war. Because, as I said, I do not feel hatred to all the population in general, because there are different people. Some of them do not support the dictatorship, the war. We once had a few people come into our manifestation. They were Russians. They were supporting war. We did get angry. We couldn't do anything with them because, well, that would be illegal. It is an irritating feeling. You do not know how to restrain yourself, but you just have to. And at those times, once again, it helps me to remember that they cannot think clearly. Somehow, it's not their fault completely that they're that way.
So let's go back to Poland now. Are you and your family safe now in Poland, or are your family with you?
No, my parents have been in Ukraine since. They never wanted to leave the country. My grandma and my aunt fled with me because they wanted to make sure I get to Poland safely. But my grandma left a few months after that. She said she was too proud being in her 70s, living as a refugee between two homes, somewhere in some hostels, when she can be at home. And she just took her risk and went. And actually, my aunt is coming back to Ukraine soon. So just hope and pray everything will be fine with them.
What about your life in Poland? Could you tell us more, a little bit more about your current life in Poland?
Right now, it's mostly our protests. That's 80% of my life, if not even more. Now that I'm on holidays again, the studies are over for now, all my free time, all my time I dedicate to organizing those protests, going to the daily ones, but most importantly, thinking for the big manifestations that we are now making more and more often. That's what I've been doing for the past, I would say, 5 months. But still, every day it is going to the protest twice a day and helping in any way I can. That would be writing speeches, making speeches, translating some posts, writing those posts, or just brainstorming what we can do new so that media would talk about Ukraine again. Because now it's not that interesting of a topic as it was in the beginning, but it's still vital to talk about this war.
I know you even organize protests to the U.S. consulate. What purpose would you like to achieve when you organize so many protests?
We ask for more support because US, let's be honest, is our strongest ally, and they have all the power, political, economic, military power. We just thank them and ask for more help, for continuation of support. In my daily speeches, I address the government of US asking to name Russia a terrorist state. They already have that initiative. It just needs the approval of General Secretary. And that's what we mainly ask for. Another part of our group still asks for NATO to close the sky. I personally think that still that's now impossible and just probably unreasonable. But still, we believe that with help of our greatest ally, with US, we can win that war. And the only thing we ask for is to them support us as much as they can and in timely manner. Because time right now is everything. We definitely know we're going to win this war. The question is just, what will be the cost?
So at this stage, do you think the Ukrainian have enough supports? I mean, do you trust the international, the United Nations, or the European Union could make the right choice, could make the right decision to help Ukraine?
I do not think, honestly, United Nations right now can do much. What concerns the European Union, I just hope for more packages of sanctions. That's truly what we need right now. But once again, they are, as a union, are unable to give us the military support we need, only the country separately. Some of the countries, let's be honest, I still think could do more. For us, every minute is someone else's life. And when they waste time on bureaucracy, which I do understand is vital for the function of the states, for us it's still hard to accept, truly hard.
So how's your personal life in Poland now? Do you make friends, and how's society staying in Poland?
I had made a lot of wonderful friends from the protests. That's one truly positive thing from this horrible, atrocious situation, because the people I found here, how dedicated they are, how they have faith for the better future. And I know they will never stop fighting, not even afterwards. They will fight for the better society, for the better life of Ukrainians, of the world, for our global security. Because we are quite an ambitious group, and what we see on the example of our country, how the world is unable first of all, how those international organizations were unable to prevent war. UN was created so that such things would never happen again. Let's be honest, it failed. We fear for the security of the world, and that's another reason why we stand on those protests every day. And we know we will keep fighting, and we'll keep thinking about the ways how that security can be reached, even after the war. Because nothing is set in stone, even after our victory. We have to think about the future.
How are the Polish? How are they supportive or are they kind to Ukrainian?
Yes, most of them for sure is. I mean, every country has nationalists, or once again, people who have been influenced by Russian propaganda, because it doesn't stop in Russia, it's spread all over the world. Plus, in some cases, I mean, Ukraine and Poland share some territories, we share history. It's also a complicated one because we've been oppressed. Both of our nations have been at some point oppressed, and we've been fighting for our rights and been thinking only about ourselves and our future. Poles they decided to overcome, to forget all that horrible trauma and all those things that happened in the past, to put it aside and just help us, truly opening their hearts and their homes for us without even thinking how much it will cost them, how they will have to, well, sacrifice their comfort in many ways to help us. If we're being honest, they don't have to, but they do it because they have just the kindest of hearts.
We believe Ukrainian or even your president Zelensky are strong enough to fight. You guys have strong faith in winning this war. So how do you estimate a war at this stage?
The war is to be won. We have to be victorious. But once again, that depends on how much support from the West we'll have. Because we do have the will to fight. We have the will to sacrifice our lives, I think each and every one of us. And we will do it, but we have to know it's going to be for the last time. Because we've been fighting for our independence for centuries. And for the last 8 years, particularly. We just want it to be a definite win. So we need those weapons. We need the strong support, continued support. And when and how only depends on how much the West will support us. The war can be won, in my opinion, quite quickly if we would have all the weapons we need.
How about rebuilding? Do you think is it a dream of rebuilding your hometown now?
Definitely, not only my hometown, but there are so many beautiful cities that had suffered horribly. Mariupol completely destroyed. Chernihiv, a city that dates back to 9th century, destroyed also like 70% or even more of the city. Kharkiv, that I visited just last year and completely fell in love with the city, once again destroyed. I know it will take us years, if not probably decades, to rebuild the country, but that's something we definitely will do. And hopefully one day the life going to be better and maybe even more comfortable and with the better standards of living as it was before, because we can only now dream of the better future. Otherwise, we'll just lose all the hope.
You know, the tensions continuing around the whole country, of your whole country. The nuclear plant is just the largest nuclear plant in Europe, and it is situated right in the southern part of your hometown. It is now seized by the Russian military. Do you have any concern about this?
Oh yeah. Just today we were discussing the situation with our process group, because nobody is safe. Even here in Poland, we're in a great danger, and especially people in Ukraine. I remember spending many horrible nights and days worrying about the Chernobyl airs still in March, because it was also under occupation in the beginning of war, in the beginning of full-scale invasion, and about the possible consequences of the fact that Russians were also bombarding that nuclear station. They had been stationed there. It was often being out of power. It was truly horrible to think of what might happen the next day. Now I had made a decision not try not to think about it, because truly it's only paralyzing. Right now, I cannot allow myself to spend days worrying. I think I'm better off trying to inform the world about the situation, because only sitting worrying will lead us nowhere.
Shortly, you cannot go back to your hometown, I know. Ultimately, will you plan to go back to your place?
I'm dreaming of coming back home, and to be honest, I'm thinking about it every day. Any minute I'm alone, I'm starting to think how wonderful it would be to go back home. And the hardest thing is, I know a lot of people who had taken that risk, and they're happy now with their families in their homes, but in the grave danger any minute. And the thing is, it's also harder for me because my hometown is 1,000 kilometers from the border, from the Polish border. So if anything happens, it's also a horribly risky trip, as well as really dangerous stay. So in both ways, it's just a lot of risk. And I want to see my parents. I want to see my whole family. I want to visit my house. And I know how much they miss me. That also makes it a choice harder. But I know my mom truly against me visiting again, because she knows it's a risk. And to be honest, I'm afraid to go, because I do remember how horrible it was to evacuate in March. And I know that so many people had done just undescribably so much for me, so I would be safely here, that now just for me going there, making all their efforts useless, I'm being torn apart every day, to be honest. I have people who tell me, take a risk, go. You miss them. It's more or less safe in Dnipro as it can be anywhere in Ukraine. And I have people who truly believe it's not worth a risk, and it's a tough choice every day.
So, when I asked you a question, that what does Ukraine mean to you?
First of all, it's my home. I just fight for the opportunity to be able to go back to the place I've been most happy in my life. I am happy here in Krakow. I have a whole life here going on, and I love the city. But just to be able to go to the place where my roots are, to see my family, to be happy with them once again and know that I'm in safety there, that's Ukraine for me. That's home.
If you could choose one more time, would you want to be an Ukrainian?
Definitely. You know, before the war, I once in a sociology lecture, our professor was saying that People describe themselves, their identity in many ways. I thought to myself then, well, I'm first of all a student, then I'm a daughter for my parents, and then I'm a Ukrainian. After the war had started, it all changed. Now I'm first of all Ukrainian.
Thank you very much for your time, Nina, today. And best wishes to your family and friends. And with hope, and stay safe. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
They will never stop. Sacrificing, giving them territory will do nothing. Proclamation of war.